Hey guys, LevelCap here, and today I'm taking a look at an early build of Ghost Recon Wildlands. If you're not familiar with the game, you play as an elite soldier fighting a drug cartel that has basically taken over the whole country of Bolivia. It's a tactical third-person shooter set in an open world. The entire game can be played either solo or co-op with up to 3 other players in an incredibly large and dynamic world. For this video, I'm going to focus mostly on the single player and go over the basics of the game. I have another video in the works that's going to come out a bit later that will cover the co-op, so stay tuned for that. Now, the first thing you're sure to notice when you hop into a game of Ghost Recon Wildlands is that the world is very impressive. There's a full day-night cycle, weather system, and a ton of environmental diversity. Visually, it feels alive and lived in. Even on console, the draw distance and weather effects were really good looking. It's clear that the world design is the core of Wildlands. So much of how the various missions play out rely on the design of the area around them. The starting area is very open and spread out, giving you tons of options of how to complete your mission. The devs, however, told me that later in the game, areas get much more dense and complex, so storming an objective in a helicopter is not always a viable option. Now, like many games, you begin Wildlands by creating your character. The system has a ton of options for your physical appearance and clothing. Most of the options stay within the theme of the game, but there's plenty of variety overall. You can also unlock more appearance options by beating certain bosses. However, there doesn't seem to be any stats tied to your appearance, so even if you have, say, a ghillie suit, you're still going to be just as visible to enemies if you were wearing, say, a cowboy hat and blue jeans. It doesn't really make a difference, which is nice, as it gives you freedom to sort of customize the look of your character regardless of how good that gear is. You can also save your appearance options in a handful of preset slots, so if you want to dress appropriately for the mission at hand, you can quickly swap your appearance out. Likewise, the gunsmith in the game gives you plenty of variety for customizing your weapons. Just like with the clothing options, all the paint jobs for your guns and parts fit into the style of the game, though it wouldn't shock me if there was, say, a gold camo or two hidden behind maybe a boss unlock. And in fact, some of the bosses actually give you unique weapons when you beat them, so I'm sure one of them is going to have a blinged out machine gun or something along those lines. Really, the big draw of the boss weapons is their higher stats than the base weapons. And speaking of bosses, there are a lot of them. 26 in total actually, but if you're expecting bosses to have health like they do in The Division, think again. All enemies that I ran into went down in just a few shots, even the bosses. The game treats all enemies like they're regular people, though getting to the bosses is where the actual challenge lies. There are, however, some heavy soldiers in the game that do take a few extra rounds to kill, but their body armor is super heavy duty, so it does make sense. In my time with the game, I never ran into an enemy that seemed like some crazy dude with a grenade launching minigun and had 1 billion hit points. So knowing that each enemy dies in a believable way really helped create a more immersive experience. Ultimately, what makes the bosses so challenging is the actual design of the areas that they're hiding in. The first boss in the game that I fought was a pair of bad guys that the cartel uses to torture people for information and to scare the locals. Unlike other missions where the objective area is wide open and easy to access with, say, a powerful vehicle, this boss fight forces you into the basement of a cabin where the bosses have a mounted machine gun. I actually ended up getting gunned down by trying to take the machine gun head on, though my AI teammates were able to take it out and revive me. And this is what makes boss fights challenging. They have slightly higher health, but the level design makes it hard to get to them. Once you break through their defenses, taking them out is pretty straightforward like it should be. Finding the location of these bosses also makes more sense than it usually does in games of this nature. Instead of having an all-knowing boss guy telling you where to go, you actually have to track down each boss through a series of side quests. Each of the bosses have about 5 to 6 side quests you have to complete to find their location. Completing one gives you intel or a person that points you in the right direction, but you don't just all of a sudden know everything about everyone because you found some random laptop in a bunker somewhere. The storyline and gameplay all fits together and supports the theme of the game much more realistically than, quite honestly, I was expecting. Usually with these type of games, I'm already kind of used to finding a PDA that tells me all of this information information and highlights points on the maps for me, but it was kind of refreshing not to go through that exact same process this time around. The game actually treats you like you're a real soldier and not necessarily some sort of superhero genius, so it just feels a little bit more grounded in reality. Something else that really helps the game feel immersive is that you can drive pretty much any vehicle in the game. If it looks drivable, it probably is. By the time I got through my second side quest, I had already stolen a helicopter and used it to take out a convoy. Fortunately, there doesn't seem to be any sort of vehicle restrictions either, like having to rank up to unlock a helicopter or a tank or something like that. It's all accessible from the get-go. And there's also kind of a cool logic to it. Sometimes you'll see some military vehicles or just beat up cars, but you'll also find some super flashy supercars. I mean, you are fighting a drug cartel after all. They're a bunch of really rich criminals who of course are going to want to buy really flashy stuff. And sure, it might not be the most practical vehicle, but you try telling that to a henchman in a drug cartel that has taken over an entire country. He's going to drive whatever the heck he wants. Now, Wildlands is built for co-op gameplay, but it's also designed to play perfectly fine with your AI teammates. They don't alert guards by accident, and when you tell them to open fire, they end up getting kills. So if you're playing the game without a squad of friends or don't feel like playing on a public server, single player is still a very fun experience. And I'd even go as far as to say that single player can offer a more tactical experience. When you're playing with other players, any single one of them can trip off enemy alarms, alerting an entire base to your presence, turning your stealth mission into a full-on firefight. When you're playing on your own though, basically your skill level is what sets the pace, and when you're playing with friends, the lowest common denominator kind of sets the pace of what kind of mission you're about to play. And of course, approaching objectives with your buddies and going in guns blazing can be a ton of fun, and again, I'll be talking about that more in my next video. Overall, I'd have to say one of the best things about Wildlands right now is the visual quality, the scale of the world, and the tactical freedom you're offered. It's a nice touch to this style of game, and I'm looking forward to playing the game more as the development continues. The follow-up video I'm working on is currently under NDA, but if you have any questions about the co-op aspect of Wildlands, let me know in the comments section, and I'll do my best to answer them in the next video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.